Here are 3 things that you didn't know about the takeaway, but if you work on these, they can make a massive difference to your golf game and actually get you to hit it a lot better. Let's start with the first one. Now, I don't believe that many golfers know these things. If you do know any of these, feel free to let me know in the comments. It'd be great to see kind of what level of knowledge we've got in the audience. But I think these 3 things are massively important to playing better golf, but often misunderstood. So the first thing that not many people know in the takeaway is that the pressure that goes from your feet in the golf swing, which happens in all golf swings, will happen incredibly early. Let's explain what I mean by that. So as we look at the setup, we often start with our pressure fairly centered. In the backswing, the pressure moves to our trail leg. In the downswing and the through swing, our pressure moves to our lead leg. Most golfers know that. However, what most golfers don't know is that when the pressure is at its maximum under this leg, so the most amount of pressure we get into that trail leg is actually here, really early. So by the time I get myself to here in the golf swing, that's the point where I've shifted the most amount of pressure into that leg. After that, that pressure starts to reduce, we start to recenter, and it starts to move back to the lead side. So that has to happen in your takeaway. And lots of golfers in their takeaway are actually far too static. So they make this movement away where there's no pressure moving at all. No weight movement, no pressure movement. It's all a little bit too much with the hands and the arms, all a little bit too slow. We'll come to that a little bit later in the video. And there's not enough happening through the legs and through the ground. The issue there is that we often then do it late. And then we start to drift into our trail side, or we start to move our head off the ball to almost search for those feelings of, I've got to get my pressure or my weight into my trail side. The takeaway should be when the pressure is moving. Here's a drill that's going to help you do that. We'll do it without a ball to begin with. Normal setup. Take this trail leg and move it closer to your lead leg. It doesn't have to be touching, but closer. Then you're going to set the club some 6 inches in front of the golf ball. And here's what I want you to do. You're going to think about your leg and the club. You're going to take your trail leg and you're going to move it and step into the kind of position that it would be when you took your normal address position. And as you do that, it's not just my foot that's moving, it's my whole body. I feel like I'm stamping down on that right foot and putting pressure through that right foot. Notice when I do that, club head isn't moving. So I'm not yanking it with my hands, I'm not pulling it with my arms, it's not moving. But once that pressure is down, then I can start my chest and my rotation, which is obviously then gonna move the golf club. What it's gonna mean is that I've got pressure moving into my trail side before the club head is moving. So when we look at a takeaway, what do we think moves first? Club. But that's only what we can see. When we can measure, it's pressure that moves first. That starts the whole motion. So here's what it's going to look like. You're going to go normal setup, foot a little closer, club in front. You're going to go step and up. And what that's going to do is it's going to, I'm going to say, instantly give you a feel for what it's like to get the body involved early, to get the pressures moving early. If the pressures move early this way, they're going to move sooner this way. That's what the great players do. You're going to get into your lead side sooner. That's going to help you with strike. It's going to help you with compression. It's going to help you stabilize your body through impact. There's so many knock-on effects that happen when you do it right. When your pressure moves late, game over. It's a recovery process, really hard to do it from there. So I'm going to attempt to hit a ball this way. Now, I'm not sure exactly why I've chosen to do this on camera, because this is probably not going to be the best strike. It's a drill, it's great to do, but obviously it's not going to be as easy to hit balls that way. So we're going to go foot here, club there. I'm not going to do it at full speed, but I'm going to go stamp, move, and through. Not bad. It was a little thin, but direction was okay. And as a little exercise and a drill, it did what it needed to do. I got the right kind of feels and ideas. That brings us on to our second point, which many people don't know about the takeaway. And that one is that face angle doesn't actually matter that much. People often get obsessed in that takeaway with, where is the club face? Is it vertical? Is it toe down? Are the grooves at 45 degrees? Are they the same as the body angle? They tend to get a little bit obsessed with this position, often when they're looking at their golf swing on camera. And I'm going to tell you, it doesn't actually matter that much. I need to explain that. Stood up this way, and you can see how the grooves of that club are vertical, same as my spine angle. Now, if I was to simply rotate my body, rotate my body, rotate my body, you can see how those grooves would be vertical, as is my spine angle. That would make sense. The club is married or connected to my body, it's in sync with my body. Now from here, that's not our setup, or not our body angle. So from here, if I was to go into my body angles, I tip over and the club follows. So you can see how the grooves are now still matched to my body, which is why we get told that the grooves of the golf club should match your body angle. Now I like that theory, it makes perfect sense. I'm sure you can all see why. However, what happens in the backswing, if we do it for here again, we rotate our body, grooves stay nice and vertical, but at some point what happens to the arms? They start to rotate and fold. So look what happens to that club face if I now start to rotate and fold my arms. You can see how it starts to change angle and it eventually ends up on this horizontal angle. So now the grooves don't marry up to my body angle. So what would happen if in my golf swing I started to fold my arms slightly sooner than maybe somebody else? So let's start from here. Grooves are vertical, same as my body angle. I start to rotate back, but I'm now a golfer who starts to fold my arms a little bit sooner. So what's happening to that club face? It's starting to rotate over. Now if I go into my body angles I would be at setup, that leading edge is now vertical, not matched to my body angle. So it's not here, it's here. So because that club is now toe up, does that mean that face was open? Does it mean that I rolled it inside? Of course not. It just means that on that particular swing, I started to fold my arms slightly sooner than the previous demonstration. Doesn't mean one's right, doesn't mean one's wrong, doesn't mean you have to fix one, doesn't mean one's going to cause a slice. It's understanding why the club might be in that position. So what I would be doing is I'd be saying what my preference when it comes to club face, match to your body angle, vertical, somewhere in between the two. That's how I like to see the takeaway. And the final one that not many people know about the takeaway is that it doesn't need to be smooth and it doesn't need to be slow. Doesn't mean it can't be, because it can be, but it doesn't need to be. So often I hear golfers saying they've got to get smoother, slower away from the golf ball. However, it can actually lead to some issues. Think about what we said in our first point about the pressure. The more I focus on a low, slow, smooth takeaway, everything from here down is redundant. Nothing's happening. There's no pressure moving. There's no energy created. Yes, I might be able to sort of manually position the club and be a little bit more almost in control of it, but it's almost a false sense of security. I'm placing the club into position. It's not a golf swing. When we look at the best players, and especially when we look at driver, take some driver swings. You look at those golfers, there is some aggression in that first move away. We often see some bend in the driver shaft because there's so much force happening in that takeaway. You look at someone like Rory, you look at his hips, and you'll see that he actually has this little kind of bump across to the right. That goes back to our first point of shifting pressure, and especially with driver, he's got this quite aggressive move away. So it can be slow and smooth, if that's your style, Colin Morikawa, relatively slow takeaway. The point is, it doesn't have to be. If you've got a fast, aggressive takeaway that's got some energy in the golf swing, I like that. I think that's really good. I think it helps us with so many of the things that we want to do. It helps us start from the ground up. It helps us get energy into the golf swing early, and it very often helps with the sequencing and timing of the golf swing. So, have you ever seen this little drill? You place a golf ball behind the one that you're hitting, you take a setup, and we have often been told that when you hit your golf shot, you should roll that ball away, but only by a foot to 2 feet. And that drill makes sure that you are slow and smooth in your takeaway. Who's seen that drill? I've seen that countless times. I probably, many years back, probably even prescribed that drill. I don't like that. It doesn't really do anything for me. It kind of does those things that we mentioned. It almost takes away from so much of the good stuff that we want in our golf swing. I'm going to hit a shot now to finish this video, and I want you to see where that second ball goes. Should be on the green. And how far did my ball go? Well, 1, 2, at least 3 yards back away from the golf ball. That wasn't low and slow. I wasn't focusing on slow or low. I was focusing on actually getting some energy into the golf swing.